You guys see Silksong came out? You really? Oh, you thought? Because I told you that it happened? I was misrepresenting it for the purposes of humor.
At E3 2019, 2 games were announced that I was very excited for, that being Elden Ring and Silksong. Since then, E3 has ceased to exist. Elden Ring and its 2-year developed DLC Shadow of the Erdtree has released, and Silksong has no release date and has so little news about it, people are starting to doubt its very existence. It's been 2,041 days at the time of recording since Silksong was announced. That's 5.5 years. On August 17th, there's a tweet from Jeff Keighley, the guy that runs Gamescom and the Game Awards. Quote, just to get this out of the way, no Silksong on Tuesday at Open Night Live. I think that's what ONL stands for. At Team Cherry Games is still cooking. It felt very odd to get this news from not Team Cherry, but it also felt odd getting this news at all. Jeff Keighley's pretty keyed into a lot of the hype surrounding some games, so I think he wanted to get this out of the way so that other games that people were showing off that they paid to have those slots weren't getting drowned out with Silksong when in the live chat. I was pretty curious to see what was going on, so I went over to Team Cherry's website and was kind of shocked to see it hasn't been updated since 2019. What we have here is a pretty interesting situation. Team Cherry, through their development of Hollow Knight and its subsequent free DLCs, would give pretty frequent updates through their Kickstarter and blog. They'd respond to questions on their Kickstarter, and that information could be handed out by their fans to the rest of the fan base via Reddit or Twitter or whatever. But that information was still coming directly from the developers. They haven't extended that same level to Silksong, and I can't really understand why. The simple answer is they're working and too busy to plan an update. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect some kind of semi-annual or annual update other than the "Hey gang" tweet we get from their marketing person about once a year, which is essentially the same tweet. Look, I'm not out here trying to tell anybody how to do business or how to feel about waiting for the game. It's going to be done and come out when it's finished, and I have no issue waiting personally. What I don't like is that there's this sense of apprehension within the community that stems from the unknown, not having any information to support them, so speculation takes over. There are people who comment daily on a 2019 trailer on the Nintendo YouTube, and I'm not condoning this behavior or excusing it. However, it feels like it's getting to a point of ridiculousness. If you've ever watched a live broadcast of any gaming show, you're bound to see at least some Silksong when messages, especially in any indie direct from Nintendo, which I kind of feel bad for any other indie dev having this be their moment drowned out by this noise, but I digress. Hollow Knight isn't just a good Metroidvania, there are tons of those. It transcends that a bit with its very strong world building, hand-drawn art, motif-forward music, interesting characters, very satisfying combat, and mysterious lore which allows players to get more out of the game than just their playtime. These reasons, along with the game having a very generous price point of 15 USD and being available on just about every console, lowers the bar of entry drastically. This is a game that can be recommended to just about anyone. If you have 15 bucks and want to get around 40 hours of gameplay, well, here you go. The word of mouth and ease of access of this title has led to an ever-growing fan base, and if you've played Hollow Knight once, you can go back to the game and still get a satisfying playthrough, even if you aren't doing like a challenge or a speed run. But those subsequent playthroughs won't be as special as your first playthrough, and no amount of anyone shouting out any other really amazing indie Metroidvania games is going to replace or lull that fervor for more Hollow Knight.
Ranjo Stenja.
These are valid concerns. The long stretch of time with no news or progress update for a seemingly simple game seems logical, but I think this quote from Team Cherry is relevant here.
Don't aim to make a massive game and then have it all fall over. What we did, and we think is successful, is we aim to make a very small game, a small Metroidvania, and then we had enough energy and budget and we're enjoying it enough to allow it to expand, but at any time we could have stopped that development, packaged it up, and had a complete game.
See, this is my understanding of how the development of Hollow Knight went. This is why when you look up any cut content from the game, you will find whole areas, quests, NPCs, and other ideas that got scrapped simply because they had to release the game. They were somewhat beholden to their backers, and the game had to come out. Even their goal for a Wii U version didn't happen because the Switch was out and it just seemed like more trouble than it was worth creating that version of the game. So I'm going to assume that now that Team Cherry has the time and resources, they are crafting the game that they want. Like, if you look at Hollow Knight with all of its DLCs, they're probably aiming for that or bigger in terms of scope. On one hand, this is kind of concerning because a game being big for the sake of being big doesn't guarantee quality, and on the other hand, how I understand it, Team Cherry came up with a very central idea and just kept adding things on. So if they continually keep adding things on with no clear cutoff, then I feel like that's what's leading to the situation we're in now.
Velmi Ardred.
This is another shared attitude I've seen some people expressing, and to some degree, yeah, I can agree a little bit, and I don't think anyone is demanding news. Any of that should be met for what it is, not productive. As I said before, Team Cherry themselves have established these lanes of communication with their fans, and at no point did they say, this is all we have for now, and we will be shutting down this line of communication, or something to that effect. Telling us that you plan to release a game in a quarter of 1 year, then shifting to the quarter of another year is just disheartening. Like, I don't care if we get a release date at this point, and it's more disappointing knowing, oh, what the they were going to release it this year? Well, something must be going on, right? Well, we don't know. And that's why the lack of communication is creating these questions and this apprehension. Most likely they had an idea for a new area or boss and needed time to handcraft those areas to support it. And that's another thing. It's not like they can simply cook these areas up in a day. In a Metroidvania, having a cohesive, interconnected world is not that easy to do. It's actually something Hollow Knight struggles with quite a bit. The world is so big and so much of it looks samey, and it's not easy to navigate. Having one of your main navigation tools, the compass, being tied to a charm, so if you have low charm slots, you have to make a concession for combat or navigation. It feels strangely punishing just wanting to see where you are on the map. In these styles of games, the player, at some point, should become more familiar with their surroundings as time goes on, as you're backtracking. So I'm assuming that's what's eating up the majority of their time. Like, seriously, they have to hand draw all of these characters, animations, areas, backgrounds, and considering that their team is so small, yeah, I can see this taking a lot of time to do. Look, at the end of the day, Team Cherry is a group of talented developers that made a hit game. Hollow Knight is something I would feel comfortable suggesting anyone play, and Silksong will be out one day. I can't tell you what to do to make the waiting easier. There are so many amazing games out there right now. Animal Well, Blasphemous 2 have jumped to my top 1 and 2 favorite Metroidvanias to date, but they aren't Hollow Knight, and they aren't replacing what that game does or means to me. I understand that you can't just shift a new game into something you like and hope to accept it. That's why I don't like Souls-likes. I've tried to fill the void between FromSoft releases with other games like Lords of the Fallen and have been met with such disappointment. Oh, here's a thing that's like something you like.
Your clones are very impressive. You must be very proud.
Yeah, thanks. Let me get right on this substitute. And you can only replay the same game so many times. For me, I really have to space out replays of games, and there's just so many new games out there that justifying the time on something I have experienced in lieu of new games is really tough. But I was a fan of Metroid-style games before I played Hollow Knight. I played all the 2D Metroids, I played Castlevania, and it feels easier for me to pick up one of these at any time and experience it more or less in a vacuum. With the seasons changing and it getting a little cooler and spookier out, I always get in the mood to return to Hallownest and delve back into the world of Hollow Knight, and that's what I'm gonna do this year. Re-explore this world and get Aspid's snot in my face for the 10 millionth time, and this will probably be the last time I play Hollow Knight until Silksong comes out, whenever that is. If I had one wish though, is that the community does a little itty teeny bit better when it comes to gaming live chat. It's getting to the point of Bloodborne PC port copers. We all want this thing. but we are doing ourselves a disservice by expressing it this way at every chance we get, no matter the venue. We can't control when a game that has no release date is released, but we can control our behavior. And I say this for a few reasons. One, the fervor surrounding Hollow Knight could be contributing to Team Cherry's trepidation in sharing more. It just kind of seems like they're stuck in this really awkward place where no matter what they do, it's not going to be good enough to some people. I have seen a very popular opinion out there, which I very much agree with, is that any bit of news from the developers would be a good thing. That's one of the great things about indie developers. They're not some giant faceless corporation that you feel like you can't connect with on any level. But I can totally understand why Team Cherry is just choosing to be quiet about the whole thing. They can't please everybody, so I think they're just gonna let the work speak for itself. And another thing that I don't think a lot of people are really thinking about is that Team Cherry, I don't know what their previous work history is like or what sort of work they did before they started developing Hollow Knight, but it kind of seems like a really good scenario for them. I mean, if you had a job where you get to pick your own schedule, work on what you want, do it how you want, not have anybody breathing down your neck that's like a boss or something, and you get to create at your own pace. I think for anybody, especially in game development, that sounds like a dream come true. But I don't know, I could be totally off base here. It's going to be interesting what the conversation is going to look like post Silksong release. I wonder if this wait and lack of communication is going to be a talking point when it comes to discussing and reviewing the game, or if the greater gaming community and journalists just really don't care. But you let me know how you think about it down in the comments. Do you think the lack of communication is bad? How would you want it to be different? What are you doing in order to cope with the wait? But that's going to do it for me. Until next time.
If it comes out and it's like an 8.5 out of 10 instead of an 11 out of 10, you know there's gonna be like 12-year-old kids that are like, they lied to us. They made the hype go crazy. How? By not tweeting or posting any updates for 10 years? They're just trying to make it happen, man. They're down there. They're in the gulag right now trying to get this shit out.